Hello and welcome to Champion Reviews. I almost said Epic Fantasy. I'm Joe. Here with me is my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
And we just saw the second Vulture episode. Now, this episode can almost be divided into two parts. You have the first part where Spider-Man's been drained of his youth, becomes an old man, and generally just scrambles over what he can do as the Epic fails and rolls his nat ones over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And Vulture and Scorpion running around doing their own thing. But more than that, at the beginning, you just have... It's almost it's not a fun episode, really. But then the second half is loads of fun and is fascinating.
Because the first half is probably the cringiest episode to date. And we've had some cringy moments.
Now, that said, I actually like this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the cringy stuff, like with Aunt May and Old Man Peter, I don't like this. Like, if there was ever an Old Man Spider-Man story, I'd want it to be epic and bigger than the Old Man Logan and Old Man Batman stuff, which I find are trash. And it's just those two becoming mass-murdering psychopaths. But I'd rather have an old man Spider-Man who's basically, like, you know, embodying all the good values that he's been raised with by Aunt May, Uncle Ben, and Aunt Anna. And where it focuses on goodness and heroism rather than pure evil and psychopathy. Now, this one focused on weakness and vulnerability of old age, which, okay, but it was still a little cringy there. That said, once Spider-Man sneaks into his house, I like how he starts, he immediately goes to Connors and says, all right, I need the Recombinator to fix my problems here, because I know the Recombinator can restore old tissue and whatnot. I kind of need to restore my youth here with it. But because I know you have some of my old DNA over there, my younger version DNA, so I need to use that to restore myself to that point in my life, biologically, or at least maybe use it that way to an extent. That said, you've got, meanwhile, Vulture who goes after Connors because, well, Connors is a genius and it's, I need you to fix my problems because I've got the man-spider problem.
Yeah.
I have Scorpion who goes after Stillwell who's in a madhouse because, he went a little bonkers over the Scorpion thing from fear of him. And Scorpion and Vulture have a brief clash, then decide to team up using Connors because they quickly realize Stillwell's kind of a nut, and Stillwell is pure evil and cowardice. So why rely on Dr. Wily when you have Dr. Light standing right there at your mercy?
Mm-hmm.
And he's one-armed, but he's actually honest to a fault, despite his slight lizard problem. And the fact that he just spoke to Spider-Man gives them hope, so they lure Spider-Man over, with the deal being Connor's going to take the man-spider DNA out of Vulture into Spider-Man, and Spider-Man will retain the old age. And then Scorpion gets to kill Spider-Man, and they're going to restore Scorpion to being an ordinary guy, a fat-ass Mac Gargan. Now, this is where they underestimated Connors, forgetting that he can be sly as a fox. Now, Connors is the real hero of this story, because what he ends up doing is, okay, I'll agree to your deal. I guess I don't have much choice. Like the way he says that. Oh, I guess I have no choice. You can tell he's scheming there. And even as a kid, I went, he's up to something. And I love him for that. Now, that said, what he does is he takes extra hours just to keep the mutagenic nightmare in Vulture while restoring the youth and the perks of the X gene to Spider-Man. And so, like, he double crosses Spider-Man. Now, what Connors does not count on is Stillwell double crossing him. Because even Connors stresses to Stillwell, okay, we're going to need the Recombinator. This thing is very important. And Spider-Man, of course, starts fighting Scorpion, gets distracted by that. And also, I love how Christopher Bryan says that one line, I'm back! when he's young again. I love that line. That was one of my favorite lines in the series. It was so glorious and triumphant. Now, that said, when Stillwell decides that, well, the Spider-Man issue has been fixed, but it's time to... He claims he's taking responsibility. Really, he isn't. He decides he's going to destroy the Recombinator in the lab and all the files and all of his life's work in order to just give a massive F-you to Scorpion out of anger and hatred for Scorpion. Trapping Scorpion in that body, not thinking things through on the fact that won't Scorpion be pissed and want to kill him even more? Or something? Now, that said, Connors immediately starts begging, wait, Stillwell, I need those files. Please, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Now, Stillwell knocks him away and hits him, going, wrong, Connors! I will take responsibility now by denying you this, and I will destroy it so that no one can ever use my files again. And they're like, least of all Scorpion or the Vulture. But the way he says it, it's like, wow, he's Dr. Wily here. And Connors reacts with anger and desperation as he tells him, wait, Stillwell, I need it. Why, Connors? Oh. And as Connors goes lizard for the first time out of anger rather than fear or anxiety. And his life was nearly in danger a few times over the course of this episode, but every time Connors almost chose death over becoming the lizard, here his anger gets the better of him, and he goes to kill Stillwell as the lizard, but then Spider-Man sadly saves Stillwell, and I know I'm condemning Stillwell a lot, but I really hate him.
Yeah, better Smythe Sr. than Stillwell.
Hell, better Smythe Jr. than Stillwell.
Yeah.
Because the thing about Smythe is, yes, he's out for revenge and to climb up in the criminal underworld. Sure. But Stillwell took a crime job, / mercenary job, of turning a man into the lizard without caring to explain to him that it would wreck his life. Then he refused to take responsibility for the Scorpion and denied all responsibility, even though everyone knew he was responsible.
Especially...
Even the guards did, and the citizens of New York did. And on top of which, he then decides to destroy his research, even though Spider-Man and Connors kind of need it, and there's a lot of people's work, job, and lives that poured into it. He claims it's his sole research. Forgetting that actually it was more Connors and Mariah Crawford who built up Neogenics and even Herbert Landon than him. And he ends up deciding that, well, and what's more is that, he knows Connors and even Crawford need the Recombinator in this research to complete their research because they're trying to find cures for things like cancer, for anyone who's got, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde stuff. The Hulk is a factor in this universe. So is Lizard. But in this universe, the Hulk is not Bruce Banner going on a rampage and cackling deep inside the Hulk. It's actually Banner going, wait, I don't want to become Hulk. So you've got people like them who are trapped in these bodies which are mutating out of their control. Or even what Spider-Man had, the Man Spider. So you've got people who are becoming monsters and are like, listen, this is our best chance for a cure. And Stillwell doesn't care. It's like, oh, what? Oh, so this could save millions of lives and save ruined lives and restore some sort of happiness to these people. I don't care. What I want is to destroy this research, to give a massive F-you to Scorpion.
And how many times have Neogenics blown up when Stillwell was in charge, and how many times did it blow up when Connors was in charge?
Connors had blew up once. Stillwell accidentally helped create Spider-Man. I consider that a blow up. That was never his intention, but he was stupid because, well, he didn't properly dust and clean his lab because a spider slipped into his first neogenic experiment.
That's incompetence, even as far as scientists go, because sterilization is vital.
And he never cared about that. Let's see. You've got I won't give him Craven. That was Mariah Crawford screw up. Let's see. Scorpion.
Mm-hmm.
Scorpion. Like here, you've got even some of Herbert Landon's research. I'd argue might be derived from Stillwell's work. I'm gonna give him that one. There's like just like 3 screw up, like at least 2. Like 2 to 3 screw ups are entirely Stillwell problems. Connor screwed once. Like Connors and Mariah Crawford screwed up once, but they were trying to fix. Like she was trying to save her husband because her and Sergei are basically married. She was trying to save her husband. Connors was just trying to like restore a limb he had lost in the line of duty when he was trying to disable a mine. So, like, it doesn't compare. Like, their intentions were entirely noble. And Connors wanted to show results as well because Stillwell was going to shut down his experiment and with some of his experiments with the Recombinator, and Connors was desperate.
Mm-hmm.
So the Lizard's kind of on Stillwell, from what I understand it. But then Connors agreed, maybe the whole lab rat thing, restoring limbs, might not be a good idea.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, so we're gonna... But that said, Stillwell never takes responsibility. I find he's the real supervillain of this episode.
Mm-hmm. And I know there are some people like, oh, what about Morbius? That was more on Morbius, not on Connors.
That was a psychopath student who got approved from probably Latveria, I think it was, from basically a student of Dr. Victor Von Doom, slipped into the midst and decided, Doom's got some good ideas. That guy screwed himself up. He was always going to be a problem.
And on the record, the entire matter with Morbius, on the record, is not due to neogenics.
Well, it is, but it's a student stealing equipment and other students' work to experiment.
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't land on Connors or the Recombinator. It lands on Morbius.
Now, you got to bear in mind that there was tight security around everything. But the thing is, Morbius used his student ID to get in and used money to bribe the guards, I imagine, and slipped out like a thief into the night, often running off with the Recombinator, then bringing it back in the morning without Connors or anyone realizing. Now, I argue, obviously, Morbius had a history as a thief.
Yes.
In Latveria. And on top of that, given that he might have spread this certain plague throughout his country, not a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that said, he's a psychopath. And I'm not going to fault Felicia for falling for a psychopath or Connors for being charmed by a psychopath, because psychopaths can be very charming.
Indeed.
And you got to bear in mind, he was so charming, even Spider-Man felt bad for him. He was so charming. Everyone around Morbius liked him, even though he was obviously a psychopath.
Mm-hmm. Morbius is a lot more like Stillwell.
Yes.
And that's what screwed him over.
And not to mention Morbius, I'd argue, has a lot in common probably with Jack the Ripper or Zodiac Killer and other serial rapists and murderers throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
Charming guy, just you don't want to invite him to dinner.
Yeah,
But anyways, how would you rate this episode? I'm going to rate this a 3 for the last bit.
I'm going to rate it a 2. The first part would be less than a star, but the second part...
But even it was necessary for the story.
Okay.
You can stick with your 2, I'll stick with my 3.
Yeah.
We'll just have to disagree very savagely.
Mm-hmm. I love the second part, the last part. But the first part really brings it down for me.
I don't see how it... you know what, I could get really angry here, or I could just say, I disagree completely, but you know what? Let's just agree to disagree. I hated this episode, the first half of this episode as a kid, but as an adult, I actually liked it. To a limited extent. So anyways, if you like this video, like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. And who do you agree with, Dan or me? Like, does the first half with Peter drag down the episode? Or does, like, is there, like, overall, is it still great? As a season finale as well.
Yeah.
As for this season, I would rate this season a 4. It was the perfect season.
Yes. A 4.
Yeah, so how would you guys rate the season as well? So stay tuned for the season 3 premiere as we get into Doctor Strange.